Hola a todos, me llamo Jaime y hoy voy a hablar contigo de por qué deben aprender un otro idioma. Now, some of you are probably thinking, what? And a few of you are probably recalling maybe a year or two of Spanish you took in high school, and at least one of you is probably critiquing my accent. And now, all of you do know that what I just said was not English, that's for sure. What I said was in Spanish, and I'm a Spanish learner, and I've been learning Spanish for a couple years in high school. And it's a second language, obviously, for me. I don't know any other languages. And I'm here to talk to you about why learning a second language is important beneficially for your social aspects, your culture aspects, and in a job environment. Now, let's imagine for a second you have an all-expense paid trip to Mexico, right? So you're sitting on the beach, nice and relaxed, you're in your chair, the sun's setting, you hear the birds and the trees and whatever, and it's really calming, but then you realize, wait a second, my last bus to my hotel leaves in a few minutes. So you grab all your stuff and you run over to the bus stop and you get there and the bus is gone. You're like, oh shoot. So you look at the sign, you're trying to make sense of all these words and phrases. It's in Mexico, it's in Spanish obviously. And you're looking at it, you see a time, it's in a couple more minutes. And you're like, I don't know where the bus stop is. And you look at it, it says it's at al otro lado de la calle. You're like, where could that be? And you look up on your phone, you're trying to find al otro lado de la calle. You don't know where that is. But you put it into your translator, you're like, I'll just find out what the English name it is. It says, to the other side of the street. Oh, okay. So you go to the other side of the street, your bus is there, you get to your hotel perfectly fine. Now that's such a big inconvenience for such something that would be so simply understood if you had like a basic understanding of Spanish. And it's really important that you have this understanding because, it's important to get back to your hotel in one piece. But that's, just a small part of why knowing a second language is really important. And I wanted to touch on specifically socially, culturally, and in the job environment. So now a couple years ago, I had the pleasure to go on a cruise and meet a couple of Spanish speakers when I was on this cruise. And I went into this dance club place on the boat, and I'm dancing and everything, but I'm all alone. I didn't know anybody else on the ship because it was just the first night. And I see this group of people, and I go up and introduce myself in English. I go, hey everybody, how's your cruise going? And I met with just blank stares. I'm like, oh no, what did I say? Did I say something wrong? Do I smell bad? Do I have something in my teeth? And no, one guy speaks up, thank goodness, and he goes, sorry, we're all from Mexico, and they don't really understand English very well, but he spoke English as well. His name was Jose, and I got to talk with him, and throughout the week I got to talk with these Spanish speakers from Mexico. I met it from Colombia, and they were wonderful people, and I had a blast. Probably one of the honestly greatest weeks of my life. And it really instilled in such a passion for me speaking Spanish just that week, and I continue to speak with them almost every day since the cruise, and that was years ago. And that was, like I said, a really changing experience to me. And I got to meet these friends and had a blast. And that's why speaking a second language can benefit you socially in that aspect, because I could bump into someone on the street, and I'm not completely fluent in Spanish, but I could definitely handle myself if I wanted to have a couple words with them. So aside from being socially beneficial, culturally it's also huge for your life. Because I sat down and I talked with a guy named Jose on the cruise, and he discussed with me kind of the differences and similarities that the Spanish culture in Mexico is to the United States culture. And we talked about how our governments are very similar. We have a lot of strict rules and regulations in America, but there's a lot of kind of looser rules in Mexico. And some rural places in Mexico can be really dangerous to people. And he specifically talked about how the government's very corrupt there, and they're run by money, and even drug lords have political power in Mexico. And it opens up your world to, it made me at least appreciate where I live today, because in America, we have this country, this government that a lot of people complain about and are literally up in arms about because of recent elections and whatnot. But had I not had this Spanish influence on me that helped me become friends with him, I would have never really figured out from a first-person primary source of information about his country and how he feels about his government. I mean, I could look up a video or something on the internet, but that's not the same as really talking to him and asking specific questions to him where I can find the answers that I wanted. So that's a huge difference in knowing a second language and not knowing a second language, is the cultural aspects, because every language has a country and a culture behind it, no matter what. So that's definitely something big that learning a second language can change in your life. And lastly, I wanted to talk about how in a job environment it can completely change your life. Because a lot of companies, big or small, they'll tend to deal with, foreign agencies or whatnot. They'll, trading, business deals and what have you. And these deals could be, of course, in a second language. You know, it doesn't have to be Spanish. It could be in Mandarin or French or German. And if you have some sort of a knowledge in this language, then the company is obviously going to ask you to come in and maybe give some insight on the culture or possibly what they should do with the deal. And you can be literally saving the companies thousands of dollars, even like millions of dollars, if you just help them out. And we all know countries like saving money. They like making money. So they're obviously going to want to keep you around. So knowing a second language gives you that great job security and definite room for promotion that, you know, other skills and talents may not give you. Just from, you know, a half an hour every single day of just practicing can make a Rosetta Stone research basis. It said that there was annually in the United States, bilingual households, their average income was $10,000 more than people who only spoke one language. And that 17% of bilinguals in the United States made over $100,000 more than their monolingual counterparts. And that's huge. I mean, that's enough to live off of, really. And that's just from learning a second language. And it doesn't mean that you have to pick up the phone right now and call somebody who's living in Spain and try to talk with them. After my cruise, actually, while I was at my cruise, I only had about a year and a half of like high school Spanish, so not really much. And I got to talk with them. And after the cruise, I only texted them for like months. And, you know, I maybe gave them a call like 3 or 4 months afterwards and slowly progressed so I can now talk to them. I can call them whenever I want and have a conversation with them. And that's how simple it is to learn a second language. It takes a long time to become fluent, but to become comfortable and familiar with the language, it only takes as much, you know, if you put in half an hour every day, you could be where I am today, which is just about comfortable in easily a year, easily. Just a few months, honestly. So those are all really big ideas behind why learning a second language benefits you socially, culturally, and in job environment. And I highly encourage you to go out. If you have any kind of interest in, you know, the high school courses you took in high school about language, French or German or what have you, just go look into them and put a little bit of time every day into it. It's well worth it. So I want to say hasta luego and gracias.